1, 2, 3, 4.
And hello there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Stay Tuned Sports. It's your good friend Jimbo here with our weekly MMA show. Lots to talk about. We had UFC Justin Gaethje versus Cerrone last weekend, the fight night. Some interesting fights, some good fights. Some submissions of the year candidates, knockout of the year candidate, pussy of the year candidate. I'll get into that. I was a little pissed off about that outcome of the one fight, and I'm sure if you guys watched the fights, you know which fighter I'm going to be kind of bashing. But before we get into all that stuff, head over to Twitter, follow the show at STS. Let me retry that. Follow the show at ST Sports Podcast. Follow myself at Jimbo ST Sports. Shoulders is at STS O'Brien. Head over to Facebook, like and share our pages there. Leave comments. Head over to YouTube. Cyborg actually left a comment on one of our YouTube videos, the one that I talked about, who actually won the relationship war between her and Dana White a couple weeks ago. So, if you don't want to listen to us on iTunes or Spotify, you know, you got friends over, throw it up there on the TV. I'm pretty sure everybody has a PlayStation or Xbox that you could jump on YouTube and you guys could listen to me talk about UFC, Bellator, bare knuckle fighting, which will be coming up actually a month yesterday. I will be camping. This is going to be actually the first bare knuckle pay-per-view I'm actually going to miss, but I am going to watch it Sunday when I come home because I'm so behind bare knuckle boxing, the way they're handling the organization, everything like that. It just sounds like they have their ducks in a row and they're doing it the right way. But like I said, last weekend we had a fight night, which we also have one tomorrow night, because right now it's Friday. You guys probably will listen to this tomorrow when it airs. But yeah, tomorrow's UFC fight night. The main event is Yair Rodriguez versus Jeremy Stephens. But I'll save my picks for the end of the show like I normally do. I'm hoping to live tweet it. It's going to be tough for me because Notre Dame is actually playing at 8 o'clock too. So I'm going to probably be bouncing between both games and tweeting about both things. So it's going to be a very exciting night for myself. But like I said, last weekend we had UFC Fight Night, Justin Gaethje versus Donald Cerrone. For you guys who didn't watch it, Justin Gaethje knocked him out. I mean, he was out on his feet. I know Cerrone was complaining that it might have been a quick stoppage. Honestly, it was actually just the opposite. Gaethje knocked him down, and as he's falling, you could see Cerrone's eyes, just in his eyes, he wasn't there. Granted, he was trying to crawl to Gaethje to try to take him down, but that's just a fighter's instinct, I believe, once the light switch goes off. And Gaethje looked at the ref like, what are you doing? Ref didn't do anything, so, you know, Justin, you know, I keep calling Gaethje. I'll just call him Justin for now. But he had to keep on punching until the ref finally told him to stop, and looked at the ref, yelled at him a couple times, and that's when Cowboy finally came about and started to argue a little bit. But Gaethje, that's how you're supposed to pronounce it. I loved his post-fight interview. Actually, both of them. You know, Gaethje kind of slipping up and, you know, saying shit or whatever he said, and DC was like, you know, you're on TV, son. first off, DC, shut the fuck up. I mean, I understand it's live TV. Don't let your kids watch after 8 o'clock then, if you're that worried about language. But Cowboy kind of stepped in and gave his respect to Gaethje, saying he's a tough kid and you know, he's going to go back to the drawing board and see what happens there. You know, Gaethje talked about the fight. He said that he thought it should have been stopped a little sooner, but the ref is the ref. Whatever, that's a judgment decision. And DC asked him who he wants next. And we all know about the little beef between him and Conor McGregor. And I believe DC actually brought it up about Conor, and Gaethje said, you know, I don't want to fight a retired fighter. You know, he's irrelevant, this and that. And then, you know, Conor obviously tweeted, I believe, a couple days ago, before the fight, about Dublin, December 14th. Now, even Dana White had a Q&A yesterday before the Masvidal-Diaz news conference that he doesn't know what Conor basically meant by that, because UFC already has a pay-per-view that day in Vegas. And I'll get into the rumors that why he may have said those dates after I'm done here talking about Gaethje. But you know, I mean, Tony has to be the next opponent for Khabib. He just got passed over too many times. He's been dominating fighters. What's he on, like a 5, 6, 7 fight win streak? And Cowboy was the last one he beat. And as much as I love Cowboy, he beat him good. You know, it was fairly obvious that Cowboy, coming out of the round that it got stopped, that he was going to need a knockout to win the fight. So, you know, where does Gaethje go from here if Tony gets Khabib? Poirier got brought up, and Gaethje has a good point. He goes, he's coming off a loss. Gaethje's coming off a win. He wants a winner. If that's the thinking, then why would you want Conor? Because he hasn't won since, 2016? It would be a good fight. Conor doesn't like wrestlers. He likes to box. Gaethje's got some power. It would be an interesting fight if you put those two together. On Conor's side, it'd be a good fight for himself, because honestly, I don't care how big of a superstar he is for the UFC. I don't think he should get a rematch against Khabib with not winning since 2016. And some people believe even longer than that, because a lot of people don't believe he beat Diaz the second time around. I believe that he did. It was a close fight, but I believe he did. Basically, if you were to match these two up, just flat out come right out and say whoever wins will get the next title shot against Khabib and whoever he fights, which it has to be Tony, because who else other than Gaethje would you pin up against, as his opponent, next opponent? And a couple days after Gaethje's fight, he started sending messages to Conor to try to egg him on to have him come out, because since that fight, Conor hasn't really said anything or tweeted anything like he normally does. Now, going back to Conor's December 14th date that he tweeted out, supposedly there is a little bit of a beef between him and an Irish boxer. So some people starting rumors and thinking that it might be possibly an announcement of him doing boxing again like he did with Floyd Mayweather. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Conor wants to definitely get back in the octagon. And, Dana White, again, during his Q&A, someone asked him, do you think we'll see Conor fight this year? And I believe he said, if you don't see him fight in December. You're going to see him early next year, which we've been hearing that for 3 years now. So my personal opinion about Conor, I think this incident with punching the older gentleman, I think the cops finally are getting the evidence, and I think Conor may be having issues with his visa to be able to come back over to the U.S. to fight on U.S. soil. So we'll see how that all plays out. And then in the co-main event, we had Glover Teixeira versus Nikita Krylov. And I'll tell you what, as soon as he walked out, Glover, I'm sorry, any fighter that's over 40 years old that walks out to GNR, I'm going for you. And even though he's old, he still has some in the tank, it looks like. I mean, I don't think he's going to beat John Jones, or maybe he might not be a top 3 guy, but I think he's definitely a top 10, could compete with the top 10 guys. Maybe the 4th, 5th ranked guys he could break into. But he ended up winning by a split decision. Definitely showed some of his boxing skills. I believe he dropped Nikita once, about halfway through the fight. But overall, I mean, obviously, whenever it's a split decision, it's usually a good fight. So then before we talk about the Todd Duffee Jeff Hughes fight, I want to talk about the fight that actually kicked off the main card, which was Misha Serkinov versus Jimmy Crute. Crute looked like, in the very beginning, looked like he was keeping the pressure on, looked like he may pull out this win, and end up on the ground. And out of nowhere, Misha Serkinov went for the guillotine, flipped him over, and actually submitted him with a Peruvian necktie. Now, my wife was watching it with me, and she even asked me, she's like, what are they going to call that, like, as far as the official decision? I'm like, it looks like a guillotine, but I never seen someone get choked out like that. It was basically like, obviously it was a guillotine. He had the arm underneath the chin, but it was kind of almost like a neck crank he had going on there. And as they were announcing the winner, and I was live tweeting the event, it came across that this was the second time ever in UFC history to have a Peruvian necktie submission win. I mean, you think about how long UFC's been around. UFC's been around since even before Dana White and Zuffa took them over back in the early 90s. So you're going on 30 years, and you only had 2 of these type of submissions. I mean, this definitely has to be the submission of the year for this guy, because again, second one out of 30 years. I don't even know when the first one was. Maybe it was before UFC was really legal in the US. But a hell of a setup and everything like that, and for him to pull off the win. So, like I said, Todd Duffee versus Jeff Hughes in the heavyweight division. Everybody that remembers Todd Duffee, he came onto the scene with, at the time, one of the quickest knockouts. And then, unfortunately, I believe it was like the next fight, he got knocked out cold, bad. And we didn't see him for a few years. I believe they said about 4 years ago was the last time he was in the UFC. Now, leading up to this fight this past week, he took some shots at the media, basically saying that it's the media's fault for stunting prospect growth by putting so much pressure on guys, this and that. And first round, Todd Duffee looked like that quick knockout fighter that we once saw. But like we all know with heavyweights, when you come out swinging left and right, you're going to gas out. And that's what it seemed like it started to do going into the second round. And so the second round started, and you could tell that Todd Duffee had some cardio issues. I'm trying to talk over this motorcycle. There it goes. Turns off. The unfortunate thing of recording in your bedroom here. But they started to exchange a little bit, Jeff Hughes and Todd Duffee, and unfortunately, Jeff Hughes' finger went into Todd Duffee's eye. Ref saw it. Ref called timeout. Made the fighters go to their respective corners. As soon as the ref came over to talk to Todd Duffee, first things out of his mouth, "I'm seeing double." Okay, listen, it could happen. I mean, it has happened, like, things do happen like this. Referee said, okay, you got, such and such amount of time. Do you want me to stop the fight? At this point, Todd Duffee said, I'll take my time. He's taking his time. Ref ended up bringing the doctor in to see what's going on. Doctor looked into his eyes. Once again, Todd Duffee told the doctor, "I'm seeing double." Looked down a little bit. Doctor started to walk away, and Todd Duffee said once again, "I'm seeing double." Doctor turned around and said, "You're seeing double." That's it. Fight was called off. No contest. Listen, all of us have seen enough fights to know and listened to commentators who were fighters that screamed, "I'm done. I have nothing left in the tank." And it's a shame because you train and train and train all these weeks. Even if it's only for 4 weeks, even if it's only for a week, you trained for this fight, and to only last a round. I was very disappointed in him. Jeff Hughes, and here's the thing, like, a no contest to me, I don't know how you guys feel, but a no contest to me is just as bad as a loss, I believe, because now it's on your record. It's a black eye in a way, to me it looks like. You look at John Jones with his no contest with Matt Hamill. He will forever have that on his record. Do I think it should have been on there? I mean, he did break the rule. I don't think there should be no contest. If you break the rule and the other fighter can't go on, and it's obvious that you were losing, then it shouldn't be a no contest. The other fighter should not be penalized because you didn't train well enough or didn't successively implement your game plan. So I actually kind of hope that UFC releases Todd Duffee. I think the Todd Duffee experiment is done. I don't think you'll ever see him again. I saw someone put on Twitter, I hope this was more of a joke, maybe put him up against Greg Hardy next. Listen, Greg Hardy, he's actually, they announced, going to fight his original opponent from Dana White's Contender Series. I don't know what the UFC is doing with Greg Hardy, but it's time for him to get a step up in competition. Stop feeding him these Joe Schmoes, these prelim, undercard guys. Start giving him some good competition. So a few weeks back, Bellator signed Nick Newell to a basically like a tryout fight contract. So he had a one-fight deal, and he ended up winning his fight this past, I think it was a couple months ago. It was no, actually last month against Corey Browning by first round submission, and he was actually on Dana White's Contender Series, ended up losing on there, and unfortunately Dana White did not give him a contract. Now the fight that he was fighting on Dana White's Contender Series was actually a pretty good fight. and he was winning, but unfortunately lost. And so Dana White does not give out any contracts to fighters that lose, even though if they look promising. Well, Bellator finally stepped up, and I was hoping they did this so they could step up and start bringing some good talent in and stop bringing in, over the hill UFC guys like Rory McDonald. He's good, but he's not as good as he was with UFC. And so Bellator signed him to a multi-fight deal, which he will be fighting, I believe, this October. So next month he's going to be fighting back in his hometown of Connecticut. And the interesting thing too is he only has 2 losses on his record. The other loss against Justin Gaethje, which not a bad name to have on your record there. I mean, yes, it is bad to have the loss, but it's not like you lost to your good friend Jimbo in a fight, So, and the other thing too, now the thing with Nick Newell, for people that don't really know who he is or the story behind him, he actually is a one-arm fighter, and not making fun of him or anything like that. He had a congenital amputee, was born basically with one arm, and that's how he fights. It's not a hinder to him. He's learned how to fight with it. And just to give you some stats, he's a former college wrestler who has 11 submissions and 13 total finishes. I mean, for a guy with one arm, I'm always going to pull for this guy, and it would be so cool if he were to win a championship belt with Bellator. Because the loss that he got against Gaethje was actually for the lightweight title in the World Series of Fighting promotion. So I'll be pulling for him in October. And speaking of October, my girl Beck Rollins, who was signed to a multi-fight deal with Bellator a few months ago, finally has her debut date, which is in October, October 25th. Now, I'm curious to see if that'll be the same card, because Bellator actually has back-to-back night cards at the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. She will be facing Ilaria Joanne in a flyweight bout, which will be Bellator 231. Little backstory on her, in case you don't know who she is. She fought in Invicta, then she came over to UFC after fighting on the Ultimate Fighter reality show, TV show, and was okay, was decent there, and unfortunately she went on a 4-fight losing streak, was released by UFC, and then signed by Bare Knuckle Fighting Federation Championship, basically to help bring that organization to where it is now. She ended up fighting for the Police Gazette belt in that promotion, won it, defended it twice, and unfortunately for myself, because I thought she was really good in there in the BKFC, her fight contract expired. She never really gave up the dream of fighting in MMA, so she's giving it another go. And I think the BKFC thing showed her that if this MMA thing don't work out, she definitely has a career in BKFC, and I'm pretty sure they would bring her back with open arms. So, Miss Beck Rollins, good luck to you in your debut. I'll be pulling for you, and hopefully you could get the W there and start off your career with Bellator right, because I really think Bellator is going to be getting a little bit bigger the next couple years, and hopefully at some point be able to challenge UFC to the biggest promotion on the face of the earth. So before I go, I'm going to give my UFC Fight Night picks, which is this weekend. Main event is Yair Rodriguez versus Jeremy Stephens. And, I mean, the card for the most part is an okay card. I mean, it is a Fight Night card. It's a free card. You're not going to get, Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz. You're not going to get the big names. These are more of like your up-and-comers. Maybe like your main event, maybe 2 or 3 fights away from a title shot, type thing. So to kick off the card, we have Martin Bravo versus Steven Peterson. This one is in the featherweight division. I've always liked, and I say this all the time, I know I probably sound like a broken record, but I like these featherweight divisions. They're quick. Their punches, when they connect, they seem like they're so powerful. Like they seem like they're heavyweight punches. And anybody can get knocked out in a split second. With that being said, I'm going to go with Martin Bravo over Steven Peterson by decision. I think the card's going to start off slow, unlike last weekend's fight card. After those two, we have Irene Aldana versus Vanessa Mello. I'm going to go with Irene Aldana. This is in the women's bantamweight division. I think this one might be another decision. Hopefully it'll pick up a little bit more, because the Rodriguez Stephens fight, that could be a lot of fireworks there. So I'd like to see an uptick in the competition a little bit here. Then after that, we have Brandon Moreno versus Askar Askarov. I'm going to go with Brandon Moreno here. This one is in the flyweight division as well. This one I think may be a submission win, with Brandon Moreno winning this one. So after that fight, we have in the women's strawweight division, Carla Esparza versus Alexa Grasso. So Carla I've seen fight a lot. I think Alexa only maybe seen her fight once or twice. So I'm more leaning towards Carla with this one to win, just because I've seen her. She's a tough competitor. She has good boxing. She will always be, to me, like the Keith Jardine. Never really will get the belt, but will always be kind of like a gatekeeper. This one, I think Carla could win by submission or get a ref stoppage. Then the main event, we have Yair Rodriguez versus Jeremy Stephens. Jeremy Stephens, he's been around the block a while. He's still fiery, still has some power in his punches. Yair Rodriguez, he's an up-and-comer. I mean, I don't know if you really want to call him an up-and-comer, but he's right there on that footstep to get to the next level. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think Rodriguez is going to put Stephens away to be able to say, hey, Dana White, give me some competition. Give me some stronger competition here, so I could show you what I could do for this division. So I think that's going to be it for us this week. Glad that I was able to come back. I'm sorry that I didn't have a show last weekend. Wasn't really much news other than the UFC Fight Night. And unfortunately, NHL 20 came out. Had to load that, play that for a little while. But I'm back. We're going to be doing this every week now. Maybe once in a while have a caller come in. I don't know. I'm working on getting that back up and running as well for us, for the MMA show, for the Stay Tuned Sports show, and even O'Brien's show when we have one of those. So before I go, head over to Twitter, like the show, and follow it at ST Sports Podcast. Follow myself at Jimbo ST Sports. Follow Shoulder at STS O'Brien. Head over to Facebook, like and share. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Do all that fun stuff. Leave us comments, even questions that you want us to answer on the shows. We'll be more than happy to. Also, head over to Teespring. We're actually on our Twitter. It'd be easier if you go on our Twitter account. The Teespring account is pinned right there, so you guys just go there if you want to buy some shirts. That being said, till next week, this is your good friend Jimbo, signing out.